very first recorded wearer we have of a wristwatch was Queen Elizabeth I, believe it or not, where she had a bracelet made with a position for a small pocket watch to be put into it. And then we know that Emperor Napoleon had two bracelets made, one for Josephine and one for himself, and they wore them. But of course these were pocket watches which were separate and put onto the bracelets to be worn. But again, very few people had them. The wristwatch got popularity as a result of the First World War.
Soldiers were issued with a standard issue pocket watch, general service pocket watch, which they found inconvenient to use. They couldn't get to it under their greatcoats and capes. So they went to their county jewellers and ordered what was a new idea at the time, a wristwatch for a man. At the time, ladies wore wristwatches, gentlemen always wore pocket watches, and it was quite an innovation for a man to wear a wristwatch. Warfare was changing, it was becoming mechanised, and the need for precise timing and synchronisation was very important, and so the officers needed to know the time, and it was far more convenient to have the time on their wrist rather than tucked away deep inside a pocket, inaccessible.
Immediately the First World War was finished, the watchmakers, of course, wanted to continue their business. So they started saying, hey, what can we do? How can we start? What can we make to be a bit different? One of the first developments, which is very, very important, was to try and make a watch waterproof and dustproof. A little company called the Oyster Watch Company, they call themselves, which was immediately snapped up by Rolex. What they did, very clever, they made the outer part of the case from one piece of metal only, so you didn't have any seams, you didn't have anything stuck. They put a little cylinder inside in which the actual movement of the watch is sitting, and there is a thread on that cylinder, so they were able to screw the back onto that cylinder and to screw the front of that cylinder. So great, we've got waterproof all the way around, except there was one big flaw with that, and that is the winder, because the winder has a stem in it which goes all the way into the center of the watch. So what they did, which was really very, very clever, was to put a pipe in here, put a thread on it, gouge out the metal from inside the winder so that you can screw it down as tight as an oyster.
Rolex was the first firm to successfully patent a system of self-winding. The rotor inside a watch would spin round, it would wind the watch up. Hitherto, all developers found it very, very difficult to find a way of stopping the watch from overwinding. Rolex developed a clutch system which enabled the rotor to carry on spinning even when the mainspring was fully wound, and that was called the perpetual, and it's still famous to this day.
People started wanting a bit more from their watch. They wanted a date on it, they wanted to have an alarm. And this is really a prime example of that next development where you take the watch beyond just telling you the time, but doing a lot more.
The technology has reached a point where it really can't be improved on. There are innovations, nano engraving using lasers, the cutting of the watch parts using lasers. That's aided the accuracy of the watch. But the basic mechanism still dates from nearly 500 years ago. It's very similar to an internal combustion engine. From the 1890s, if you take an internal combustion engine apart, it's basically the same in a modern car.
The last 20 years we have seen watches becoming very, very fashionable. So all sorts of traditional jewelry companies have come into the watch business. How long are they going to last? It depends on the design and so on. Finally, a number of them are going to become collector's pieces, and will continue. But one thing I can assure you of is that the mechanical watch will continue.
The conventional wristwatch, the vintage wristwatch, has such style and elegance that I don't think any amount of new technology, any innovations in new technology will detract from that beauty and elegance of these original designs and these original watches. They're irreplaceable.